The fluorescent lights of the courtroom cast a cold, sterile glow over Lena Voss as she sat motionless in the defendant's chair. Her hands were cuffed in front of her, trembling slightly, but her jaw was set. She refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of the vultures who had twisted her life into a spectacle. A camera flash popped somewhere in the back. Another headline. Another soundbite for the evening news. The prosecutor's voice rang out with theatrical precision. The evidence is conclusive, Your Honor. Ms. Voss's fingerprints were found on the murder weapon, a 9-inch kitchen knife, taken from the home of the deceased, Daniel Kraus. Surveillance cameras show her near Kraus's apartment the night of his murder, and we have a witness who placed her at the scene. Lena didn't flinch, but inside her stomach churned. The knife had never touched her hand. She hadn't been anywhere near Daniel's place that night. The witness had lied, or been manipulated, or both. But the trial didn't care about what felt wrong. It only cared about what looked right. Across the room, Inspector Marcus Weber stood in full uniform, his posture crisp, his expression unreadable. The media had painted him as the hero who cracked the case. He welcomed the spotlight, delivering sound bites with clinical poise. To the public, Weber was justice incarnate. But Lena had seen what lay beneath that mask. The ambition, the need for control, the terrifying calm in his eyes. In the gallery, Nicholas Brandt, Lena's former partner in the organized crime unit, sat stone-faced, his fists clenched on his knees. He hadn't spoken to Lena since the arrest. Rumors whispered that he believed in her guilt. But those who looked closer would see the fury in his eyes, the silent war raging beneath his composed exterior. Then it happened. A bark shattered the sterile calm of the courtroom. Loud, desperate, alive. Kaiser, Lena's loyal German shepherd, lunged against his leash as two officers struggled to restrain him near the courtroom doors. His hackles were raised, his powerful frame tensed with rage. "Kaiser, down!" one officer shouted, but the dog didn't obey. His amber eyes were locked onto Lena, wide with urgency, like he understood every lie being spoken in that room. He growled, barked again, short, clipped, almost like a protest. His nails scraped across the polished floor as he fought against the officers dragging him back. Lena turned, her throat tightening. "It's okay," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "I'll be okay." But she wasn't, and he knew it. Kaiser's last defiant bark echoed through the chamber, just as the bailiff gripped Lena's arm and pulled her to her feet. Her last sight before being let out of the courtroom was of Kaiser, his teeth bared, body straining, eyes burning with loyalty and pain. He wasn't just reacting. He was trying to say something, and no one was listening. Not yet. The kennel echoed with the sharp barks and muted whines of working dogs, but one enclosure remained unnervingly quiet. Kaiser, the once celebrated K9 unit, known for his precision and obedience, lay motionless on the concrete floor. His food bowl sat untouched. His ears didn't twitch at the sound of boots or whistles. After Lena Voss's conviction, protocol demanded Kaiser be reassigned. The department considered it a clean break. But Kaiser didn't understand clean breaks. He understood loyalty. He understood bonds forged through fire and fear. And his partner, his human, was gone. The new handler tried everything. Commands, treats, retraining exercises. Nothing worked. Kaiser obeyed no one. When ordered to heel, he growled. When led to the training yard, he sat with his back to the trainer and stared at the kennel gate, waiting, watching. "I've never seen anything like it," the trainer muttered, scratching his head. "He's not aggressive, just locked in, like he's waiting for someone to come through that door." And then came Nicholas Brandt. The department had reluctantly agreed to his request to adopt Kaiser. As Lena's former partner, Nicholas claimed a personal interest in the dog's well-being. But the truth was deeper. He needed something, anything that still felt real. Something that hadn't been poisoned by the lies and betrayal surrounding Lena's conviction. Kaiser perked up the second he saw Nicholas. Not joyfully, but sharply, alertly, as if recognizing an ally in a war no one else saw. But once in Nicholas's small apartment, the behavior grew stranger. Kaiser didn't settle. He paced the rooms at night, sniffing corners and door frames, growling at invisible things. Once, Nicholas found him pawing obsessively at the floor beneath the bookshelf, whining low and deep in his throat. Then came the night that changed everything. Nicholas sat at the kitchen table, poring over Lena's case file, something he did often, even though it brought no answers. His eyes were red-rimmed from hours of reading, frustration boiling in his chest. Behind him, Kaiser suddenly let out a sharp, guttural bark and launched toward the front door, teeth bared. He collided with it hard, claws scrabbling against the wood as he scratched, scratched like something, or someone, was on the other side. Nicholas dropped the file and rushed over. "Kaiser!" But the dog wouldn't stop. His whole body was trembling with urgency. Nicholas knelt beside him, heart pounding. "You know she's innocent, don't you?" he whispered. Kaiser paused for a moment, ears twitching. Then he let out a low whine and resumed clawing at the door. The next day, Nicholas brought him back to the trainer. "He's worse," Nicholas said. "Almost like he's trying to tell me something." The trainer sighed, kneeling beside Kaiser's crate. "He's been like this since the trial. Every time someone says Voss, he reacts, growls, paces. Sometimes he howls all night." Nicholas looked down at the dog who had never once disobeyed Lena. This wasn't grief. This wasn't trauma. Kaiser wasn't broken. He was searching, and Nicholas knew it was time to follow his lead. Under cover of night, Nicholas let Kaiser lead him through the city. The German shepherd's nose was fixed on a scent, pulling Nicholas toward an alley near Krause's murder scene. The city never truly slept. Even past midnight, streetlights flickered like tired sentinels, and distant sirens whispered of new crimes. But on this particular night, Nicholas Brandt wasn't chasing shadows. He was following one. Beside him, Kaiser moved like a creature possessed, nose low to the pavement, his powerful frame taut with purpose. Nicholas had stopped questioning the dog's behavior. He'd learned to trust him. Something in Kaiser's instincts refused to let Lena's case go dark. They moved through narrow back streets, past dumpsters and shuttered shops, until the trail pulled them into a forgotten alley near the scene of Daniel Krause's murder. Kaiser paused suddenly, his ears perked, his body rigid. Then he lunged forward, pawing furiously at a patch of gravel behind a stack of broken pallets. Nicholas crouched beside him. "What is it, boy?" He brushed aside the rubble and froze. Half buried in the dirt was a torn black glove. One finger was slashed open, the inner lining soaked with dried blood. Nicholas bagged it instantly. His mind raced. Lena's prints had been on the murder weapon, yes. But what if that weapon had been wiped down before being planted? This glove could change everything. The next morning, Nicholas bypassed the department's red tape and sent the glove to a trusted contact in a private forensics lab. The results came back within hours. The DNA belonged to Jonas Richter, a professional hitman whose name surfaced in whispers around a shadowy network, known only as Black Viper. Nicholas's stomach turned. Jonas had disappeared months ago. No convictions, no trails, only rumors that he carried out contract killings for people who could afford to make bodies vanish and witnesses stay silent. And now his blood was at the scene. Nicholas didn't hesitate. He marched straight to Inspector Marcus Weber's office. Weber didn't look up when Nicholas dropped the file on his desk. "You have to see this. That glove was buried near Krause's apartment. The blood isn't Lena's. It's Richter's. This is the real lead we should have followed." Weber flipped through the report with calculated calm, then set it down. His eyes, sharp and unreadable, met Nicholas's. "And yet," he said slowly, "Lena's fingerprints were still on the knife. The footage still shows her outside Krause's building. This doesn't clear her, Brandt. It muddies the waters, creates doubt, weakens the case we've already closed." Nicholas blinked. "You mean the case you made airtight?" Weber offered a cold smile. "Justice isn't always about new evidence. Sometimes it's about closure." Nicholas stared, stunned, but the weight of truth was undeniable. Weber wasn't interested in justice. He was protecting something, someone. Nicholas left in silence, heart pounding. Behind him, Weber turned to the fireplace in the corner of his office. Without hesitation, he tossed the glove's report into the flames. He didn't even watch it burn. Because Weber wasn't just managing the case, he was controlling it. It happened again. Another murder. Another clean frame job. Only this time, The accused wasn't Lena. It was Nicholas Brandt himself. The footage aired on every major news outlet. Grainy surveillance from a street camera showing Nicholas stepping from the shadows and shooting a man in cold blood. The victim was a minor informant connected to the Black Viper ring. No context, no warning. Just a single shot, a falling body, and a face that matched Nicholas's own staring into the lens before vanishing into the night. The department issued a warrant within hours. Nicholas didn't run because he was guilty. He ran because he understood now. This was bigger than Lena's case. It wasn't just about lies. It was about an operation that could twist reality, erase truth, and destroy lives with surgical precision. With Kaiser by his side, limping from an earlier scuffle but still sharp, Nicholas disappeared into the shadows of the city he once protected. They found refuge in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts, one of the few places left that didn't have a camera trained on it. The building creaked under the wind, long forgotten by the world. Dust coated the floor. Broken glass crunched under Nicholas's boots. But it was what sat on the steel table in the center of the room that stopped him cold. Rows of faces, masks, dozens of them. Realistic, detailed, and horrifyingly lifelike. Some had hair attached. Others bore freckles, scars, moles. But one mask made Nicholas's blood run cold. It was his face. He lifted it with trembling hands. The material was soft, synthetic, and flexible. Biopolymer, he realized. Engineered to stretch and move like real skin. This was how they framed Lena. This was how they were framing him. Every case, every airtight conviction, they weren't evidence-based. They were manufactured. Kaiser growled suddenly, ears perked. Then before Nicholas could react, the window shattered. A gunshot cracked through the silence. Kaiser lunged. The bullet meant for Nicholas struck the dog midair. Time froze. Kaiser hit the ground hard, his body twisting from the force. He let out a sharp whimper, blood pooling beneath him. Nicholas dropped beside him. "Kaiser! No, stay with me!" Kaiser's amber eyes locked with his. They weren't pleading. They were pushing, urging him forward. Nicholas's grief boiled into fury. They had gone too far. A figure in black darted through the shadows of the warehouse, weapon raised again. But Nicholas wasn't a man on the run anymore. He was a man with nothing left to lose. He rolled behind cover, grabbed the attacker's dropped sidearm, and fired. The masked assailant went down with a grunt. Nicholas stood over the body. The attacker wore a mask too, another face. Fake justice, fake guilt, fake truth. As Kaiser whimpered softly beside him, Nicholas swore an oath through clenched teeth. Black Viper had underestimated two things: a detective who refused to be silenced, and a German shepherd who'd give his life for the truth. Lena, rotting in prison, overheard guards whisper. Her execution was moved up. 3 days. That night, her cellmate, Marla, a petty thief with a sharp tongue, offered to swap meal trays. "You look like you need the extra protein, boss." Lena hesitated, then nodded. Minutes later, Marla began convulsing. By the time the medics arrived, she was dead. Poison. Lena sat motionless in her corner, heart pounding like war drums. The message was clear. She was next. That was the moment something inside her snapped. By dawn, Lena had a plan and nothing to lose. She started a fire in the laundry bin, then screamed about a shiv fight in the yard. Within minutes, chaos spread through the prison like wildfire. Guards ran. Inmates rioted. In the confusion, Lena slipped into a maintenance hallway and ambushed a young officer. She hesitated only a second before slamming his head into the wall and grabbing his keys and uniform. She ran, out through the back exit, through the fence, past the gatehouse. She found a patrol car, smashed the window, and hot-wired it with trembling fingers. The engine roared. She tore through the outer gates, free, but not far. Blue and red lights lit the road ahead like a death sentence. SWAT trucks blocked every path. Helicopter blades thumped above. Lena skidded to a halt, tires shrieking. She stepped out, hands raised. Her uniform was soaked with sweat and blood. Then she heard it. A bark, sharp, fierce. Kaiser. He burst from the darkness like a fury unchained, snarling, teeth bared. Behind him came Nicholas, blood-streaked and wild-eyed. Lena's breath caught. Nick! But before she could finish, floodlights blinded her. Rifles raised. Hands up, Voss! Dozens of red dots appeared on her chest. Kaiser lunged forward, but Nicholas grabbed his collar. No, boy. Not yet. Lena looked at them, her partner and her dog, her soul and her proof. She stepped forward. Another click of rifle safeties. I said hands up, on the ground, now! Lena raised her hands slowly, heart hammering. Nicholas, don't let them bury me again. He nodded once. You have my word. Kaiser's growls echoed through the trees as Lena was tackled to the ground and cuffed. Dragged away once more, but not broken. This time someone was still fighting, and she'd just felt the night shift. Lena woke in a warehouse tied to a chair. Richard Voigt, Black Viper's mastermind, pressed a gun to her head. Who else knows? He demanded. Nicholas? The dog? The FBI? Lena stared at him. Blood dried at her temple. They know enough. Voigt's eye twitched. Wrong answer. He cocked the hammer. Suddenly, crash! The door exploded inward. A blur of fur and fury launched through the smoke. Kaiser, teeth bared, latched onto Voigt's arm with a guttural snarl. The gun fired wildly. Glass shattered, sparks flew. Lena flinched as the chair tipped, her head hitting the concrete. Voigt screamed, trying to shake Kaiser off. Blood sprayed across the floor. Then shouts, FBI, drop it! Hands where we can see them! Nicholas barreled in with a SWAT team, rifle raised, eyes locked on Lena. He dropped to her side, cutting the ropes with a knife. Are you hurt? Free me faster, she rasped, rubbing her raw wrists. He's getting away. Voigt, arm dripping crimson, had slipped through a rear door. But Kaiser didn't hesitate. Despite the bullet wound still fresh in his side, he tore after him, his body a blur of pain and vengeance. Nicholas shouted after him, but it was too late. They followed the trail of blood and boot prints through the warehouse maze until they reached a locked maintenance room. Inside, screaming, they burst in, weapons raised, just in time to see Kaiser standing over Voigt, growling. Something soft and pale lay on the floor beside them. A mask, a high-tech biopolymer face, contorted into a perfect replica of Inspector Marcus Weber. Voigt groaned on the floor, face half ripped, bloodied skin clinging to the remains of the mask. Nicholas froze. No, it can't be. But Lena stepped forward, rage hardening her voice. It's him. It's always been him. Weber, or the man pretending to be him, spat blood. You'll never prove a thing. Nicholas aimed his gun. We don't have to. We've got your face. FBI agents swarmed in, cuffing the imposter. Lena dropped beside Kaiser, who collapsed onto the concrete, breathing hard. Blood seeped from his side, staining her hands. Hey, she whispered, stroking his fur. You stubborn hero. You came for me. His tail thumped once. Weak, but proud. Nicholas knelt beside them. He never gave up on you. Lena pressed her forehead to Kaiser's. Neither did I. Outside, sirens wailed. Inside, the truth finally stepped into the light, and the German shepherd who refused to forget had delivered justice, with teeth and loyalty. The courtroom buzzed with tension as the evidence against Weber, the imposter, was laid bare. The judge's gavel struck sharply, calling the room to order. Nicholas stood silently, watching as Weber's cold facade finally cracked. Lena's eyes met Nicholas's for a brief moment, a silent vow that the fight wasn't over yet. Outside, Kaiser waited patiently, the loyal guardian who had unearthed the truth. The evidence is undeniable, the prosecutor declared, voice firm. Marcus Weber has been impersonated by Richard Voigt, also known as Black Viper, who orchestrated a web of lies and murder. Murmurs filled the courtroom as the judge leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Nicholas's gaze didn't waver from Weber, whose lips twitched, struggling to maintain composure. Lena's grip tightened around the bench. The battle was far from over. The world watched as the truth unraveled. In the days that followed Marcus Weber's unmasking, headlines exploded. News anchors scrambled to cover the fall of one of the country's most respected law enforcement figures. Richard Voigt was exposed as the puppet master behind Black Viper, a covert ring responsible for high-profile assassinations and deep-rooted corruption within the justice system. With Voigt and Weber both in custody, their empire of deception collapsed overnight. And at the center of the storm, Lena Voss, once branded a murderer, now hailed as the woman who stood against a broken system. Her conviction was overturned in a matter of hours. Apologies from government officials poured in, but none of it erased the months of isolation, betrayal, and pain. Still, as Lena stood on the courthouse steps, free at last, the one figure she looked for wasn't the press or the prosecutors. It was Kaiser. He waited by Nicholas's side, tail wagging slowly, bandaged but alert, his amber eyes locked onto hers. She dropped to her knees, arms around him, burying her face in the fur of the dog who had never stopped believing in her. A week later, a small but public ceremony was held in Berlin's Central Square. The sun was high, casting golden light on the crowd that had gathered. Reporters, citizens, officials. At the center stood Lena, Nicholas, and Kaiser. The chief of police stepped forward with a velvet box and a proud smile. For uncommon valor and loyalty beyond measure, we award Kaiser the Medal of Bravery. As the medal was clipped around the German shepherd's neck, applause thundered across the square. Cameras flashed. Kaiser sat tall and proud, ears alert, chest puffed out, Berlin's newest legend. Nicholas leaned over, whispering to Lena with a crooked grin. "Told you he'd clear your name?" Lena smiled as she knelt, her fingers gently ruffling Kaiser's fur. "He didn't just clear my name," she said, voice low and firm. "He buried the whole damn system." Kaiser barked once, sharp, sure, and strong, as if to punctuate the truth. The crowd laughed and clapped again. Later, as the crowds dispersed and the streets quieted, Lena, Nicholas, and Kaiser walked along the Spree River, the sounds of traffic and distant music floating on the breeze. "They'll rebuild it," Nicholas said quietly. "The justice system, the agency. But it won't be the same." "No," Lena replied, her gaze on the water. "It'll be better, because now they know. Truth has teeth." Nicholas chuckled. "And fur." Kaiser let out a low, satisfied growl, nudging Lena's hand with his nose. Some bonds, Lena thought, couldn't be broken by lies or betrayal. Some truths refused to stay buried, and sometimes it didn't take a courtroom or a badge to deliver justice. Sometimes it just took a dog who never gave up. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, Kaiser walked ahead, his silhouette noble against the fading gold. Still hunting, still guarding, still loyal, always.